This is Mr. Taylor. Today I'm going to show you how you can check out a book using Koha and how you can search for a book there and place one on hold. Also, I'll show you how you can use Sora, which is our ebook app, if you are interested in checking out an ebook. And then we will take a look at some books that we have and the different genres that are available. So here I am right now on the library high school page. This is homepage.penmanor.net. I'll click on high school and scroll down. The main links that we need are right here. Um, and right here we have the Koha to sign in and place a hold link. There's also a virtual tour. I'm going to talk about both of these. There are two short videos here which kind of overview what I'm going to be explaining to you now, but those are just review videos if you needed to use them. So the Koha link, when I click on that, I'll be taken to Koha. You'll log in with your Google information. So for you, this will be your student ID number and then your Google password. When you do that, you're taken to a main page where it shows you what you have checked out, when it's due, and you can renew the item if you need to. That'll be important later on in the semester. You can search for a book. So let's say we want to find the title To Catch a Killer. I go ahead and search for that. Here are the two books that we have in that series, To Catch a Killer and then To Right the Wrongs. I click on the book. I get a photo of the cover, in most cases, some descriptors down here, and even a summary. So this is a decent way to browse if you are looking for a book. If you decide that you like this one and you're interested in checking it out, you'll simply place a hold and then hit the confirm hold. If you do not hit the confirm hold button, nothing will go through and we won't get your book. If you do hit the confirm hold button, you'll be entered into a list. We'll pull the book and then we'll deliver it to your classroom. So with that said, I'll go back here. You can search for, perhaps you don't have a certain title in mind, but perhaps you have an author that you would like to read or a topic you kind of want to see, okay, what are the different basketball books? And you can browse that way using some of the subject searches. You can see I get 104 results. It also says that there are 45 results in the library's Overdrive collection. I will talk about that in just a moment, but that's where you could get some ebooks if you wanted those. I do want to jump back for just a second to show you another way to browse. If you don't have an idea of what you want, you'd rather just kind of browse the shelves like you would typically in a library, you can go down to the virtual tour. The virtual tour allows you to peek around in the space that we are currently in. So for this year, we are in the new part of the building, but we're in a sort of a basement area. Perhaps some of you have walked by. We have the library divided up into the different genres. There's adventure, fantasy, science fiction, graphic novels, horror, mystery, suspense. And then YA is actually nonfiction. That's nonfiction YA. Fiction, romance, teen, war, Spanish language, and sports. So let's say that you are, or know that you are interested in a sports book. If you click on the sports genre, you can then click to see the books. And this will take you to a page that has our sports books listed. And again, you're back in Koha now, so you can easily place this on hold. So if you see after the shot drops and you're interested in that book, you click it and then you'll place a hold. Do be aware as you are browsing the books about the availability, items available for loan. You can see that these books, many of these books are available for loan right now. However, if this is red or if it does not say high school, that will mean the book is unavailable and you will have to wait to get it. You can still place it on hold, but it may be quite a while until the person before you is done with it. If you need something immediately for this week, you should be sure to pick something that is available now. So that is Koha, and that is the virtual tour. You can go through and, as I said, browse for books that way. In the next segment of this video, I am going to explain to you Overdrive in Sora, which will be the ebook collection. And if that is something you are interested in, we'll show you how you can do that. So the Sora app is found at soraapp.com /welcome. It's actually, I don't even think you have to type the welcome. So just soraapp.com. If you would like to check out an ebook, you'll head here, and then on the opening screen, it will ask you what your school is. Sometimes it will determine, based on your IP address, that you are in a Lancaster, Lebanon IU 13 school, which is where you are. If it doesn't show up, or you don't get any information, you can go ahead through and select your school. If it's still not listed, down here at the bottom, if I move that out of the way, my school is enlisted, and then you can do a search for Penn Manor. You'll see that Penn Manor is a subheading under Lancaster Lebanon Intermediate School Unit 13. That's because we are part of the IU share membership through them. You'll select that. That'll be your library. So this is basically the collection that we're pulling from. Now, once you get into the correct choice for the IU, if you scroll down, here is where you'll actually select Penn Manor School District. And then you just put in your user ID. Your user ID is your student ID number. And I'll use an example account here. I'm going to sign in. So all you need to know to get into Sora is just your user ID number. Once you do that, you're taken to a page where you can browse. So you can search for a book. There are different popular subjects. There are about a couple thousand books in here. You can see there are newer ones being added. You can browse through those. Also, audiobooks are available, and you can filter your search. You can look at the different collections. So there are a lot of different ways to explore the books that are here. If you do find a book that you want to take out, so let's say you are interested in a particular book, we'll use Wonder as an example. Here you go. You get, again, description, some information about the book, and it lets you know its availability. Here it looks like you can only place a hold. This book is not available at the moment. If I wanted to get a book right away and I didn't want to wait, I could go under Preferences and Available Books. Instead of everything, I'll only choose books that are available. And for audience, we'll change that to YA so that it is, I can choose both those. We'll do young adult, compatibility, Sora, format. If I wanted to have an audiobook instead of an ebook, we'll just look at the ebooks for now and hit apply. So I get a list of some of the results. It looks like 1,300 are available. 1,300 different books are available now. That means right now, if I wanted, I could borrow The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I can click on that and then borrow the book. Once I do that, I'll be able to bookmark the book and open it in my browser. And that means that you can read on your computer and you'll be able to flip through the book and read it that way. However, there is also an app for your phone and for your tablet. If you wanted to read that way, all you have to do is search for that Sora app. And I'm going to we'll go the whole way back here. You're looking for Sora, so SORA, A. And then it might say something like Overdrive or something along those lines as part of it. And that will be the app. You can find that in either the Android App Store or the Apple App Store. You can download it to your phone or tablet. And then you can just simply just open your books from there. It's the same process. You find Lancaster Lebanon Intermediate School 13, and then you select Penn Manor, and then you put in your student ID number. One of the benefits of being part of the IU 13 is that we can also you automatically can borrow books from the library system of Lancaster County. In order to do that, all you have to do is add that library. So if you type in library system of Lancaster, see it comes up. This is my library. You can select it and add it. I already have it added. But I'll show you if I switch over. Now you see the books change. I'm looking at a different collection. And what that means is that there may be books on this collection that I might not be able to get from the other one. I'm not sure that the other collection has American Royals Majesty yet, or Almost American Girl, whatever is mentioned here. So you do have those books you can also look through. That's Sora. It's a fairly straightforward app, but if you were to have trouble with it, you try to add it and it won't work. You can't get logged on. Should be no reason that you shouldn't be able to use your student ID number unless you have moved into the school district in the last few months. If you are new to the school district, your ID might not be in there, and that's a situation where you could reach out to me at jeffrey.taylor@pennmanor.net, and I will get you set up with an account for the ebooks. So again, covered Koha. You can order a book that way. We've got ebooks available. You can get a book online and read it on your laptop or on your phone or tablet. The last thing I'm going to cover here, and I'll transition over to, is doing some book talks. So I'm going to give you an overview of those different genres. If you remember in the virtual tour, I listed all of the different genres. So now I am going to go through and give you an example book. If you want any of the books that I talk about in the book talk, you can search for them in Koha. All right, so we'll start with that next. All right, so we'll get started with each of the different genres. The first book that I'm going to tell you about today is called Above All Else. This book is an adventure book. So if you're looking through the adventure genre, what you're looking at are different books that have survival stories. A lot of them are outdoors. The setting is somewhere in the wilderness or something along those lines. They're often, as I said, survival stories where you have kind of man versus nature sort of conflicts. We do have some of the adventure section that are more what we call like high action. Pirate stories or spy stories or something like that. So that falls under the adventure category too. Above all else, it is that survival type that is in nature. It is about climbing Mount Everest. It is about a small group of teenagers that decides and heads out to climb Mount Everest kind of on their own. And specifically, there are two main characters in the book who really um, sort of drive most of the action. And as they climb the mountain, they realize really once they get to the top that they haven't even accomplished the most difficult part because a storm rolls in and they find that they are in extremely dangerous conditions with people being injured and separated and lost, and everything kind of goes bad as they try to make their way back down the mountain. So that's called Above All Else. The next genre that I have here is the fantasy genre. So fantasy is going to have an element of magic in it. And this can include a really wide variety of things. Think Harry Potter, but mystical creatures. Things like books with dragons and those kinds of things. It could all be in the fantasy genre. This book that I have is a little bit different. It's maybe not your typical fantasy book. It's called Saving Montgomery's Soul, and it is a book that takes a look at um, this small group of characters that are all kind of quirky and they're a little odd, and they're all part of this club. They call it the Mystery Club. What makes the book kind of interesting is that it's layered with humor. So our main character, Montgomery Soul, uh, purchases this amulet for $5.99 at this kind of like a secondhand store, and she realizes that this amulet allows or kind of causes problems, issues for everyone she despises or hates. And so it's about what she does with this amulet, that she kind of now suddenly has this magical power, and what it is that she uses that power for. So it's a little bit of a different kind of book. Humor kind of marked with some magical elements. So that's called Saving Montgomery Soul. The next genre is sci-fi, so science fiction. Again, anything that kind of deals with AI, robots, uh, space travel. It can be like stuff in the way far future, or it can be things that are kind of really what we call hard science fiction, which is science fiction that's a little more realistic. I chose a book here partly because Star Wars is with the Mandalorian and all like the shows and all the sort of things coming out in the next few years. There's a line, really like a series of Star Wars books, and if you're ever sort of interested, or if you've watched some of those and think you would like to read a story like that, you might like this one. It's called Battlefront Twilight Company. So again, you've got the Star Wars universe. I would say you probably do have to at least be familiar with the Star Wars universe to kind of really get what the book is going for. But it's about the Empire, who has control over basically the entire galaxy, and the rebellion movement that is fighting against them. This book focuses not on like the Jedi or Darth Vader, even though they're kind of all part of it, but really rebellion, a rebel company called the Twilight Company, as they're fighting back on this one specific planet, and about really what happens to them. There are references to other things in the movies and stuff like that, but if you enjoy that type of science fiction, you might like Battlefront Twilight Company. The next book is a we have this one in our horror section. So this is a book. Horror books are going to have monsters in them. That's pretty much the main thing. Oh, that or be perhaps maybe particularly gory, or something along those lines. This book has a little bit of both. It is called Survive the Night. The premise starts out with which almost it could almost just be like a typical teen movie, or a teen. We have a teen genre. It could be something from there. We have a girl who has recently uh, been released from rehab. She is trying to keep herself clean. She is trying to make sure she does not sort of get involved with bad influences in her life. However, her friends talk her into going to this what's it's called a subway party, but essentially they take a broken down area of the subway, and it's kind of used like a rave. And so she goes hesitantly, and while they're there, there is a just a brutal, awful uh, murder that is kind of hidden. It's outside of the main area where all these people have gathered, and they find the body, and they actually know the girl whose body it is. After they find her, they kind of freak out. They run back to where they had been, and again, they're kind of in the subway itself, in this like shut down, kind of dilapidated, dark subway system, and no one is there. And suddenly now they are locked in and cannot find a way out, and they believe that there is something or someone hunting them in this abandoned subway. So that's called Survive the Night. Again, kind of creepy horror premise with that one. Sniper, a thriller. So this is a thriller. It goes in our suspense section. Bit of mystery also in this one. This is a cop story, so mystery suspense is going to have kidnappings, cop stories, kind of realistic crime. That even though these are fictional stories, the it could have some of those elements that are a little more realistic. So, Sniper, a thriller, is the story of a cop who basically gets a homicide case where it is clear to him, after looking at the evidence, after going to the location of the crime, that whoever did shoot this person was a trained professional, was a sniper, is someone who is extremely skilled. And part of the reason that the detective can identify that is he himself was trained as a sniper and spent some time in the military. He begins to try to follow the leads, but in a sense, the story becomes a sniper versus sniper story. This detective is trying to use what he knows to find this kind of serial killer. You're not really sure what the motives are of the shooter, and that is part of what the detective is trying to put together. So if you like crime suspense, as I said, kind of a sniper versus sniper type of a story, you might like that one. The next genre is the romance genre. So romance is going to really focus on two characters in the relationship. Doesn't mean it'll end happily. Doesn't mean that it's always about love. But this one has a little bit more of a lean that way for sure. It's called Whenever I'm With You, and in this one we have the story of a young woman who moves to Alaska and finds herself very isolated, kind of depressed, not really handling the adjustment to this small town sort of Alaskan wilderness life. Um, After she's there, she meets someone, and this character Kai is really kind of just like a breath of fresh air, someone who she can connect to, and suddenly he disappears. He's gone, kind of stops texting her back, no messages, nothing's going on. So she actually goes to find him. And what she finds out, one is that she meets his twin brother. And his twin brother is kind of worried about him, worried about why he went away, worried about why he's not responding to messages. And they think he's gone off into the Alaskan wilderness. So the two of them set out to find this person they're both very concerned about, and it's about what happens to kind of all three of them as far as a group. So that's called Whenever I'm With You. The next area or the next genre is sports. This one is called Golden Arm. It's a book about a young man who is a pitcher. He's a very good pitcher. He's been identified as having a lot of potential, and he gets an opportunity for a scholarship. But he comes from a really a rundown part of the city, where he doesn't really have very much. And basically, this kind of elite prep school is willing to pay for his tuition to let him play on these competitive travel teams and all these things. He's basically been recruited um, into a school where he doesn't have anything in common with anybody. He has to decide if he wants to leave his mom and his brother and go to the school, which is in the same town, but it is kind of a world away from where he's at. And not only that, but he has his own kind of quirks. I mean, he is not he is just really uncomfortable around people unless he is pitching. That's when he feels the most comfortable. So it's about him. It's about this new team. It's about what happens to him when he joins this competitive team. And again, he is trying to be scouted and trying to sort of be discovered by some recruits so he can get himself into college and perhaps even into the MLB. So that's called Golden Arm. The next book is a genre book for in our teen section. So teen will have a teenage protagonist, and typically they deal with real life issues. Some of them can be fairly serious. It's not that every teen book is. Actually, some of them do use humor quite a bit in them. This book uses a combination of a very kind of a very serious mental condition, but combines it with some elements of humor, and it's called Crazy. It's a young man who has in his mind, he has these these talking characters who are kind of narrating over his life. What you find out about him is that his father had suffered from schizophrenia and really went with it untreated and ended up kind of put away. And he had to go into an asylum. And he's afraid that if he tells anyone that he also hears voices, that he's got kind of these characters in his head, that they will also put him away. And so he tries to hide it. So he goes through his daily life. He goes to school. He tries to interact. He tries to be normal, or as normal as he can be. But meanwhile, he's got these five characters in his head sort of speaking all the time. And I think like maybe an easy kind of comparison would be to sort of if you've seen Inside Out, and you know those voices that are kind of going, but he hears them. Now he calls them. They all have different names. The names include FBG with a mustache, who is that's it's fat bald guy with a mustache who is kind of his like reviewer. He's constantly like critiquing everything he does. He's got Crazy Glue, who is supposed to keep him sane, but doesn't exactly. Aunt B is his sort of this like mothering character who's supposed to be supportive, but again, he's got these it always has these kind of comments running through. These characters then interact kind of as he goes through his daily life, and we sort of get their input. Um, it's a book really about dealing with his mental health. He is trying to hide the fact that he's really maybe starting to not be able to control some of the schizophrenic tendencies that he is developing. So that one's called Crazy. And again, if you like sort of real life um, drama or like sort of based on reality types of books, you might like the teen section. That would be a genre to look at. Making Bombs for Hitler is our next book, and that is a war book. So, are any of our kind of Holocaust literature is also in the war section. The war section can have any war from any time period. This one is World War II. It tells the story of a young girl who is she is, I'm going to forget what country she's in. She's in Ukraine, and she is living in the Ukraine, and she sees the Jewish families being kind of taken away. And she thinks that her family is safe. Essentially, they're not, they're not Jewish. They don't have yellow stars. She thinks that everything will be okay. But as the German war machine kind of moves on, they need more people for manufacturing, and basically her family gets completely ripped apart. She's taken from them. She's set up with a job where she is to make bombs, and begins to sort of question whether or not she can make bombs for the enemy, and then takes that leap to how can she sabotage these bombs? How can she actually start to work against the Nazis? And it's about what happens to her. So World War II story. Um, sort of a little bit of a prisoner type of story. Definitely suspense oriented. So the next book that I have here, this one is called Jackpot. This is actually just more in our general fiction section. It doesn't quite fit as nicely into a certain genre, but it's got a neat premise. We have a young woman here who it goes back to a lottery ticket. Essentially, there is this winning lottery ticket, and there is this sort of of push to find the winner of the lottery ticket. So um, this unclaimed ticket is one that's sold at this convenience store that she works at, and she needs to track down the person who bought it. So if she does that, she's hoping she can get some kind of reward, maybe some money, something from it. And what ends up happening is she needs the help of this other guy who is really well off himself, has a lot of money, and doesn't really have any motivation to help her, and so she has to convince him. And then they go from sort of place to place to place to try to find this winning lotto ticket, and the owner of that ticket, so that they can again, she hopes that she can get some of the money from that. And it's about, what happens to them as they try to figure that out and you know go along. Then I have two books here that are nonfiction books. So these are books that uh, we put these under what we call the YA nonfiction kind of category. They're just books that are kind of very readable, maybe tell stories, or are really interesting, but are true. One of them comes from actually in a blog, and it's called Sawbones, and it is this doctor and McElroy, Sidney McElroy, and Justin McElroy, and they kind of are like this team. He is not a doctor; she is. What they do is they put together, they investigate, sort of explain all these historical medical treatments that were used, and they're all really wild kind of medical stuff. If you like true life stories about kind of the really crazy things in here about leeching, I know they cover the story of Phineas Gage, who is a guy who gets a pipe basically through his head and he lives. They talk about the spreading of different illnesses and diseases and how they were treated. A lot about 19th century medicine and how unbelievably bad it was. Like how essentially when George Washington was sick, he might have had strep throat, and they decided to treat George Washington by draining all the blood out of his body, which essentially didn't help anything. And so it really goes into some of these historical treatments and their impact and what it means. And then really when medicine kind of turned to the corner and actually stopped being awful. So if that sounds interesting to you, I think you'd really enjoy Sawbones. It's a lot of it's kind of neat. There are some like pictures and diagrams that try to kind of keep it interesting with the layout. So that's a possibility. And then I'll leave you. This is the last nonfiction book. This is a war book, but a true story war book called The Grand Escape. It's about World War I prison escape. And so these prisoners are held in this German prison, American pilots mostly. And really, this was used as the basis for some films that would come out later called The Great Escape and all these. But these guys, I mean, they essentially came up with a plan, this unbelievable plan, like with this huge tunnel system and this plot to get out of this German prisoner of war camp. And I mean, they are basically almost completely like blown their cover at least twice. Not everybody makes it. The plan itself is kind of outrageous, and it's about how they pulled it off. And again, one thing I like, some of these books will have actual like photographs, pictures. So if you enjoy the history element, you might really like the Grand Escape. So those are a few books that are available to you. Again, head on to Koha. You can place those on hold, and we'll get them to you. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you soon.